the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, we're joined by Mercedes Lilienthal from Crankshaft Culture to talk about driving the new Ineos Grenadier, her career as an automotive journalist, and her unique collection of Mitsubishis. And now, without further delay, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Barris, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at thebarriscollection.com or follow us on Instagram at thebarriscollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Ike Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I'm the spiral bevel to Steven's hypoid gear. I'm the howling differential of podcasting, Ike Goss. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, we've got a big show today, so we're going to get through the news real quick. So I don't know if you've noticed, but Prince Philip seems to have there's a warehouse of his Land Rovers somewhere, and they keep auctioning those things off. The gentleman has long since passed, of course, a huge fan of the mark. And apparently his custom-built, individually specified Land Rover Defender 110 is going up for auction, expected about £70,000 for that car. It is I think it's a late 20-ish, 26, 15, 16. So it's from the end of the run, so already a fairly sought-after car. And having been owned by and having caressed the bottom of the late Prince.
That's your favorite part, isn't it?
Well, it is my favorite part. I just want to see.
They're marketing these vehicles like sneakers. They just drop them every few months,
Exactly.
Gotta sign up online. They auction them off.
Yeah, the Air Prince Philip edition of the, exactly. It's, I mean, hey, if it was even remotely importable anytime soon, might be in the market for a Prince Philip. Like I've said before, I had the opportunity to buy the Range Rover that they picked up Michelle and Barack Obama in. God damn it, and Prince Philip drove that one and he didn't turn it onto its side.
One of two.
I don't know if this one has been rolled by Prince Philip or not. I mean, the chances are, knowing that Prince Philip owned it, it likely has been rolled. Maybe only once, though. It looked okay.
I can't really say anything. I've rolled 2 Land Rovers.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing it right if you're not rolling one every once in a while.
Yeah.
Speaking of rolling over a Land Rover, one that is more likely to be rolled than regular, Land Rover looks to be producing a SVX, Special Vehicles X version, which is traditionally known to be more off-roady, has been spied in some close-up photos. I looked at the close-up photos and I don't know that it's really all that different. It looks like it has more skid panels underneath.
It's angrier.
Yeah, it's angrier. It does. It looks
angry.
like a little upset. Yeah, like somebody punched it in the face and now it just wants to It just wants to rage, I don't know.
Kind of got a little bit lifted suspension. It's a little hard to tell some of the body details with the cladding and obscurements that they have fitted to it, but
I wonder if it'll be able to take a bigger, more aggressive tire maybe or something. I mean, they were speculating that it was going to have a different tire, possibly a Goodyear source tire on it when it came out. And
maybe it's related to the bowler improvements that we were talking about the other day. I don't know.
Can't wait. I can't wait, man. Again, I just want one, so I just can't have it. They won't let me have it. I don't know. Anyways,
life's all about disappointments.
Speaking of things that we can't yet have, but one day, relatively soon, we will be able to have here in North America, the Ineos Grenadier.
We're going to talk a lot about this today.
Yeah, from the Harry Potter actor and all-around good guy, Sir James Radcliffe, the Ineos, not a defender, Grenadier, and we have an expert, certainly what we would consider as close to an expert that will even venture to come near this show.
Has driven them on 2 non-consecutive occasions.
That's exactly right. Our good friend Mercedes, rebel and journalist and photographer and Instagrammer and just all around a wonderful person. Her and her husband, Andy, are, probably the country's leading Mitsubishi Pajero collectors as well. We'll probably have to find some time for that. But we have Mercedes joining us to talk about her experience with the Ineos Grenadier. So let's shred a sharper image world band clock and throw it into the old interview machine and get Mercedes in here. All right. Well, we're joined by our good friend Mercedes, who is at the very least an award-winning journalist, an amazing photographer. And of course, you specialize in the world of automobiles and the automobile press. But more importantly, you collect weird vintage Mitsubishi cars, which we'll get to in a little bit. I think for me, that's the headline. Everything else is just great at this point. So welcome, Mercedes. We appreciate you coming on the show to talk about Ike's favorite car, the Ineos Grenadier.
Thanks for having me.
So you have, had an incredible career. You've got, just look at your Instagram to see all of the crazy things that you've done over in just the couple pages of scrolling, and only the last couple months is absolutely incredible. But maybe for those of our audience, what are some of the highlights, I guess, of how you ended up in this world of automotive journalism?
Gosh, that's a loaded question. There's a lot there. In a nutshell, I came into this industry in a very twisty, curvy, backroads way via a near 20-year commercial interior designer project management career. So I went to college. My parents immigrated from Germany, so I'm actually dual citizen, German-American, first generation here. My sister and family still live over there. My mother still lives in Wisconsin. I live in Oregon. So I went to school for a fine arts degree and spent almost 20 years in that facet. And basically that was my world. And in 2018, I basically said I need a change. I want to do different things. And my husband at the time, Andy, who's also an automotive journalist in his off hours, he's been working in the off-road industry and aftermarket industry since 2006, but he was an editor and writer since 2000 when he graduated college. And I, long story short, basically started saying I'm going to, go on a lot of these trips and see what all of these, off-road vehicles can do. And I love the passion of the community. And we've both been gearheads for so long. And I said, gosh, I wonder if there's a way that I can really make this my life, make this my passion, make this into an actual vocation. Turn this into my life, my full-blooded life, instead of just being like, oh, I want to just do my 3 weeks of the year, my 2 weeks of the year. And not that I'm counting, but April 17th in 2018, we collectively decided, let's just completely switch gears. That's pun actually intended, and go full steam ahead in full-time freelance.
Excellent. Well, that's fantastic. And of course, you are not just here to talk about this today, but one of the things that obviously we're very interested in is that your career has brought you to a place where you got one of the very coveted invites from Sir James Ratcliffe to come and try out his brand new car that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he hand builds them in his garage somewhere in Wales. But that's the brand new Ineos Grenadier. You got an opportunity to go to Scotland, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? And drive the actual car, the finished, sort of ready to go car.
Right. Yes. So it was an invitation from the actual auto manufacturer themselves. So Ineos Automotive, not necessarily Sir Jim Ratcliffe himself, although
he didn't pick you up at the airport. And
that would be really interesting. I'd love to meet him someday. But if you're listening,
right.
But no, actually, it was from Ineos Automotive directly, and they flew about 140 journalists from all around the globe to Scotland to drive these vehicles. They're production ready vehicles. And there are 2 of the 3 different trim levels, or additions, shall I say,
right? Yeah.
of the Grenadiers, to drive them on and off-road in Scotland. So This was actually the second time that I drove the Grenadiers. So the first time I actually drove them was the prototype variant, and that was about a year ago, around the same time actually, but that was in France, and that was their 2B prototypes.
Right.
So that was kind of an earlier stage prototype variant, and that was in France, and it was strictly off-road because they weren't legal at that time on road. They weren't far enough in advance. I mean, they had 3D printed dials on the dash, and they literally had big, huge, red emergency buttons where you just smash on the top of in case something happened, and on the dashboard and things like that. So
that's not a standard feature.
No, I didn't. I was looking for the little kill switch or something, but no,
that'd be nice.
They did away with that. But
Now it's a safe word. right?
Yes.
You just
Right, exactly.
You're-
That's right.
So,
you're driving along and something bad happens, and you're just like zucchini.
yeah, right,
Just-
exactly. So bubbles,
stops.
bubbles. You got to say bubbles or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Your buddy
um,
just turns the ignition off and throws your keys out the window.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
how-
much. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
So it was actually my second time driving the Ineos Grenadier. So it was different country, but of course with Scotland, I mean they're all right-hand drive variants, but with me and with my husband Andy, we're a little bit oddball in the fact that we own right-hand drives,
Right.
but we're in the US where we drive not in the intended side where right-hand
right.
drives normally drive. So
Although I've experienced Oregon with plenty of people driving on the wrong side of the road with the right side on the car. So it doesn't seem, it's a free spirit.
yeah, free
accurate.
spirit.
Ike has definitely ended up on the wrong side of an Oregon road with mostly a broken steering box, I think. the
Uh-oh,
culprit,
that's not
behind
good.
that. But that's fine. Just throw the anchor out to stop. So here's a question, generally speaking, sort of about the Grenadier, is that, I think a lot of people, when they see the Grenadier, the natural question comes out about the Land Rover, the previous 2016 Sunset Classic Land Rover Defender, I guess we're calling it now. And, maybe the next closest being, sort of the same Steyr Push DNA and stuff is the Geländewagen. So
Right.
would you say that this vehicle sort of scratches the itch of someone who maybe wanted to buy that classic 2016 Land Rover Defender, but is also not necessarily someone who is going to go out and buy a Geländewagen because they don't want an S-Class Mercedes interior and all of that sort of stuff? Do you think this kind of scratches the itch of somewhere in the middle of those two?
I think it does. I mean, I think the price point really has a lot to do with it. Obviously, the Mercedes-Benz is a lot more expensive than what we anticipate the Ineos Grenadier being.
Right.
Obviously, North America, we're going to be getting the Ineos Grenadier a lot later than what they're anticipating already shipping vehicles. For Europe or, for instance, Australia. We've got a good friend of ours that lives in Australia. His literally was built last week.
Wow.
We in North America, and he's been literally emailing me updates or messaging me updates weekly.
Yes, right.
Ben.
Yes.
But so us in North America, we won't be able to know actual figures on what our pricing will be in the next few months or so at least. And actual units are going to be hitting the shores later in 2023 as of now.
Right.
So we won't really know. But as far as that, I mean, 2016 is when, as we all know, or most of us know, that Land Rover decided to go in a completely different direction. And the original Land Rover Defender, the old Boxy workhorse utilitarian that a lot of us know, basically kind of went by the wayside and the last one was produced. So that left an opening into the marketplace for an old workhorse, just more mechanical type of a vehicle where you can make it more field fixable. You can have it on the farm, you can use it on the ranch, and you can not have to worry about unibody construction if you're, off-roading it pretty hard, or if you're needing something that is a little bit more robust and a little bit more rugged. I think for that fact, you're going to have a lot of vehicle types of people that are going to say, hey, well, I want something that is field fixable. I want something that is something that I can not have to worry about this technology bit breaking or going into limp mode or having all sorts of other issues or it having a beefy ladder chassis or it having more suspension travel or more opportunities, whereas now it's more luxury and technology, which is where the new Defender is, which is where Ineos decided to not go. So I definitely think that there's market. I mean, I think Ineos basically told us, they said there's 4 different segments of people that they see wanting to buy at least the first iteration of the Grenadier.
Right.
So
Just 4.
Just 4. There's 4 people
just 4,
that
right?
want to buy it.
They did their market analysis, right?
Might be a problem.
We got on one extreme here. We've got the off-roaders, right? The off-road enthusiasts that love, like all of us, right? That want to accessorize, they want to upgrade, they want to, put lift kits on it, roof racks on it, they want to use it, abuse it, do whatever we can and just basically test the vehicle to its max, right?
Yeah.
Then we have the lifestylers. We've got the lifestylers that are just the outdoor enthusiasts. They want to go down, they want to go camping, they want to go to the beach. They, want to use their vehicle off pavement, but they're not the ones that really want to go up, use low range. They don't want to, go fjording rivers and do some of those different things that,
on the way to the Costco, you're not necessarily going to hit
that type of thing or whatnot. And then you basically end up having these corporate entities. Those are the other ones.
So they're envisioning like a municipal or utility type role for these cars?
Yes.
Like fleet vehicles?
You brought up the fourth one, actually, was utilitarians.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So farmers, ranchers, people that basically need it as a utility workhorse vehicle.
Right.
So not more for recreation, but more for utility. And then your corporate entities for fleet vehicles is the fourth bucket. Or your
Which
fourth.
obviously Land Rover has more or less gone away. I mean, there is a utility Land Rover in the UK, Defender rather, but, not in the way that you're going to hook a boom lift up to it, or you're going to, sort of do something like that.
Right.
And obviously certainly the modern G-Wagon, no one has ever done that with it. The Steyr push version of the car, maybe, but certainly not since it was an army vehicle has anybody used a G-Wagon for their utility vehicle. So it's interesting that they are recognizing that as a segment that is, it's not just Ford Rangers or Ford F-150s that people use as fleet vehicles, but that there is a use for a utility SUV in that market.
When I was there in February of last year, when I was in France, they actually had a two-door commercial prototype that I drove. So they had left-hand drive and right-hand drive variants there. And I actually didn't realize that when I was driving, I just hopped in and went, and I just didn't even think about it. Because again, I live in Oregon, but I have left-hand drive and right-hand drive sitting in my driveway. So I just don't think about it until I use the blinkers, and then the wipers go up.
That's right.
That's when I realized that, at least living in the US, that I know I'm in the wrong car because the mind thing. But anyways, so when I was in France, I didn't even think about it until all of a sudden I tried to hop in the one thinking they're all left-hand drive and one of them was right-hand drive. That being said, is one of them was the commercial variant, but it was only a two-seater. And then it had like this big cage in the back, and it had blacked out windows. So there was just metal panel on the back, and it just was the commercial variant. So those are available in certain markets. They're not going to be available in this demographic. So not in North America, but they're not expecting that. They're expecting that mainly in Europe and some of the other markets, because that's cool. Where they're targeting those more fleet companies. So.
And any word on whether they'll do a two-door version of that utility car, or it's always going to be the four-door chassis and they'll just they'll just blank out windows and things like Land Rover does?
That's a good question. That was a question that I had that I don't know if they really had the answer for me for. I know that they are coming out with a longer wheelbase Grenadier. They didn't really say any more as far as the estimated arrival or estimated, release date of that. I know that they're going to have a truck. Yes, they love a truck.
Oh, man.
I was able to get some information out of them as of, it's a month ago about that I was over there. So it's just finishing up. We're over in Sweden right now, somewhere testing, cold weather testing. When I was over there a month ago, I just, I think it was the 22nd of January, I wrapped up that trip. So they had said in a couple of weeks they were going to go in Sweden to go testing. So I assume that means like right now. And there is a smaller EV, full EV that they have or that they're designing. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that's going to be four doors. I don't know. They are also working on a hydrogen power plant too.
Sure.
So
that makes sense.
That is because obviously Ineos Group, the overarching entity of the 36 subsidiary businesses that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is part of, or the owner of, or I should say the founder, the CEO part of. They make a lot of hydrogen because there are chemicals, oil, and energy conglomeration. And so they make a lot of hydrogen. So obviously they would be very well invested in making something that produces, or that uses hydrogen.
Uses proprietary Ineos fuel.
Well, it would be fuel that they would be able to generate and use. So closed loop system. So yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I think hydrogen is an interesting fuel for like a maybe a little more adventure-oriented vehicle, because there is a world, although not as easy as a jerry can of gasoline, there is a world where you can carry surplus fuel with the vehicle not in the main tank, which I think is interesting. That's obviously something you can't do with batteries. Obviously, you can carry solar with you and you can charge those batteries. But, it's interesting to think about the fast fueling and some of the extended range that you would get out of a hydrogen sort of off-roader. I think that's really fascinating. So on the topic of this sort of, I guess, more the lifestyle segment, what's your feeling? Do you feel like this vehicle is going to take a bite out of the current Land Rover Defender, maybe a little bit of the Geländewagen and some of those vehicles? Certainly the G-Wagon is meant to look like a tough sort of off-roader. It's sort of underneath isn't really anymore, but certainly has some of those styling elements. Do you think that there's people that would say, oh, no, I'm going to have a Grenadier instead because, whatever. Do you think it's going to take some market share there?
I think it will for sure. And the reason why, it's multifold answer. I think that you're going to have a part of the market share of people that want the latest, greatest something different.
Right.
And they won't care how much it is. They're going to say, yep, I want it. It's different. I don't care anybody else. It's just going to be something new. Nobody else has got it. I got to have it.
Right.
There's going to be another group of people that say, oh, okay, so I looked at the statistics. It's kind of Wrangler-ish. It's got some better features. It's got some not so great features, but it's got low range. It's got this, it's got that. It's got, some of these other things. It's got what the Defender used to have, but it's got some of the things that Mercedes has, obviously, but it's for a fraction of the price.
Right.
But it has some of the things that the Bronco has. Well, could it be a Bronco fighter and a Wrangler fighter? Yeah, of course. So, but it's a lot more of a boutique manufacturer. So they're expecting that they're going to be selling maybe around 30,000 units. Well, I think, gosh, what was it last year? I want to say Jeep produced with a Wrangler Rubicon. I want to say maybe 200,000.
Like 100 million. I mean, everywhere you go.
Yeah,
it's just
like it's
you're
just
surrounded by a Jeep pickup truck everywhere you go now. It's
right. Yeah, exactly. It's the JT's, like, the state bird of,
yes,
California, it seems like. But
exactly. Yes, exactly.
But I mean, rightfully so. I mean, Jeep has honed they're the king. They're one of the kings. I shouldn't say
no
the
question.
king, but I mean, it's like they're the king of off-road for a reason. I mean, they've had that opportunity to hone. I mean, they've been in existence for over 80 years now. I've written extensively about Jeep. I've rallied Jeep. I've driven tons of different Jeeps. I've, off-roaded Jeeps crazy. And I mean,
they still can't make a frame that doesn't break.
But you raise a good point. Jeep, of course, has issues as far as some of its reliability things. We all know that. We've seen that. But there's also Land Rover too. Land Rover has had some issues. We've got some diehard off-roading friends of ours up in Canada, for instance. They love their Land Rovers. They've had their Land Rovers for years. They've had nothing but nonstop issues. But they still love them.
That's Land Rover owner. You're describing Land Rover ownership. Yes.
That's why they buy.
Right. I mean, but and who knows what's going to happen with Ineos? I mean, their biggest thing is they have a very robust warranty. That's actually another question that I asked them, and I haven't gotten it back yet, regarding the North American market. I do have information. It's a pretty comprehensive, warranty bit of information that I have based on other markets, but it's not yet for North American market because we're still too far out. So I don't want to share that information because it's not applicable to us yet because we're too far out to be able to receive it.
Will they have a dealer network here? Is that the plan, to sell through a dealer, not like Tesla where it will be 100% online with like 5 dealers across the country, but like a dedicated, will it look like a 1980s ski chalet of circa 1990s Land Rover dealerships?
They will have a dealer network. Their biggest thing is they want to make sure that there is a comprehensive enough dealer network that is close enough for people to be able to not have to drive hours and hours to get to one if they need to be serviced. Right. Or if they break something in the field because they're off-roading it, or if they're doing whatever they're doing and then all of a sudden something happens. Right. It's been a while since I've been updated on that bit of news, so I don't have the latest and greatest to share with it. But yes, they are. The last that I heard is they're partnering with Bosch. Don't quote me on that. But I know that they are working on that. And I know one of the things too, again, this is a little bit ago, the information that I have received is one of the things when you're an owner is you will have a robust program. And I'm not sure how that's going to work with computers, but it's like 3D exploded diagrams of all of the parts that you'll have and coded with all the information so that you can literally see, oh, hey, it's this part I need or that part I need. And then you'll have it and then you'll be able to understand exactly what it is that you need. And
that's cool.
Get it. And so for me, I'm again coming from interior design, right? I'm a 2-dimensional drafter, right? So I, CAD draft, so computer aided drafting. But to see that, to have them think of that way, to go, okay, let's support our owners. Let's find a way to be able to do that. And for them as a brand new automotive manufacturer, they might, even though they have a lot of top tier people from other manufacturers, which brings in a lot of expertise, they're still a brand new manufacturer. And I mean that both as a pro and a cons thing, because it goes both ways. Yeah. But some of the things is they may have some ideas that other established manufacturers might go, well, we can't do that. We can't.
Right.
Well, maybe they might go, well, yeah, we can. Why not?
Right.
Which will push the market hopefully in a better spot for other OEs to go, okay, well, maybe we should. They're doing it.
Right. Right. Well, look at
You
what
know?
Tesla has done with, a company like Ford and pushed their electric vehicle program
Mhm.
to be more like Tesla because they kind of have to, because I think they have sort of redefined what it means to purchase and what it means to be continually updating and what it
Right.
means to feature enhance a car after it's been purchased, right? I think
Right.
it's interesting. And I love the fact that they're leaning into the sort of right to repair world of why somebody might be interested in buying the car,
Right.
is because they do want to be able to get into a situation where, they may have to field repair it. And field repair now is different than it was in the 1950s. We don't have
Oh,
a
yeah.
double-ended spanner. We have a computer with us. We have,
Oh,
and so it's just really cool. That's really
well, and I think for me, one of the things that caught my eye, well, there are multiple things that caught my eye about the Ineos Grenadier. I very first, actually, it was maybe 2 years ago or around 2 years ago. I flew down to Texas from Oregon for
Mhm.
only a few hour long meeting. It sounds crazy, but I'm certifiably so. I flew down for a couple hour meeting to with the company and their agency to understand what this vehicle is all about. The very first ever prototype that was made, the very first Grenadier that was ever made, was actually landed in Houston, Texas, the day before. So they had that at this meeting. It was basically an exterior shell. It ran. It
Mhm.
had a steering wheel. It really had nothing else. I mean, they had the doors. They let me look inside. It basically had nothing else but like a bunch of wires. But
Yeah.
the exterior was there. And you'll see it in some of the articles I have with either Forbes or Tread or Gear Junkie, whatnot. But what they did is they talked to a small group of media and they said, hey, this is who we are. This is
Mhm.
what our intention is. And then I started doing some more digging. And one of the things that they said is we're a company that wants to stay as mechanically inclined as possible and only use technology wherever it's absolutely necessary. And I thought, well, that's really interesting.
Mhm.
Coming from a world where we have the 90s 4x4 sitting outside, Mitsubishi Pajeros, and a Delica sitting outside where, we don't even have ABS. And
Right.
we have like
Right.
one ECU that like is this little brain box. We already had to find one from like, I don't know, Lebanon or something. Because one of ours died and we only could find one like in the whole world to replace ours with. That would be
Mhm.
a story better suited with my husband to tell. So long story short is they wanted to have their vehicles be as easily fixable as possible, even though we're literally in 2023 now. And I thought, well, that's kind of refreshing because coming
Yeah.
from, having vehicles like that, well, yeah,
Mhm.
do we have, automatic up down windows? Well, in Mitsubishis during this time, yes, we have that. I mean, but that was a very
Mm.
forward feature at that time. But we don't have a lot of the amenities that newer cars have. But God,
Right.
think about the ECUs, think about all the brains, think about all the stuff, this and that. We've been off road where there have been, this manufacturer will remain nameless, but where we've had manufacturers' vehicles, that was a fully customized vehicle. But
Mhm.
all of a sudden there's something going complete limp mode multiple
Yeah.
times, different manufacturers.
For
And then
sure.
all of a sudden you're like, well, shoot, I can't. What am I going to do? I can't even get it
Right.
off the trail. I can't. I
Right.
can't do
Yeah.
this. I can't do that because you can't even fix it because it's all of a sudden dead because it's
Right.
going 5 miles an hour because you can't think it. You can't fix it. You can't do anything with it because
Yeah, if it can go 5,
Crazy.
why can't it go 25?
It-
Well, that brings up a good point,
It's-
right? Like this vehicle, I think for all intents and purposes, is a backwards looking vehicle
Mhm.
from a technological perspective. It harkens to an earlier era, right? Like there's some sort of nostalgia here that they're incorporating into this car, right? Not only does it look like a vehicle that's no longer in production, right? It has most of the technological refinement of a vehicle from the mid 90s.
Yeah.
I would say, it uses the ladder
some
chassis,
degree.
it uses the solid axles, it uses,
right.
all
That-
these
yeah.
sorts of things.
Right.
But at the same time, they're trying to build a car that I'm assuming they want to, make into a successful brand and sell more of
Right.
these cars. Is there some feature of the Grenadier that it has that other manufacturers don't have, that you think that like this is really interesting, or this is really forward thinking? You're laughing.
Okay, so well, the one thing that came to mind, just totally that shouldn't come to mind, but it saved my ass on the trail, which is
Okay.
totally not the thing that you would normally think. It has a really cool little toot horn.
Oh, yeah, the bicycle
toot.
horn.
It has toot. It says toot.
It
Yeah.
says, okay, which you'd be like, what? You'd probably think it would be like this, self-revolutionizing, crazy, whatever to save you from hanging off a cliff kind of a thing or whatever. But we'll get into that part in a second because it does have opportunities for a front, integrated winch and like even a removable rear winch opportunity. But anyways, so one of the things that we did in Scotland is, we were driving in the Highlands, right? And we did a fair bit of off-road driving, which I really appreciated because that's my main jam, right? Is test these vehicles off-road and see what they do. And we were the first international wave of several waves to come in. So they had the first local waves,
Right.
the UK waves, and the more local waves. And of course, temperatures just totally plummeted, and it snowed before we got there. So we didn't have a chance to do any ice or water wading, and they had a lake that they had some of the other previous waves wade through because there was too much ice that formed, and everything that was pretty much where we wanted to go was like ice encrusted and snow encrusted and got really slippery. And there was a lot of challenge with what we drove.
Right.
And so we were on some more flatter areas, beautiful scenic areas. And we're getting into some of the hills in the Highlands. And there was a huge herd of stag. There were probably maybe a dozen grenadiers. And we're towards the tail end. And there was a pack of, I saw the whole herd come down and I was driving. And long story very short, there was probably, 50, 60 of the stag that came down. One of them came back up the gully and came all the way back up and basically stood towards my direction and didn't want to let me go. And there was a fellow journalist, a Canadian, that was in the passenger side. Mind you, it's right-hand drive. I'm sitting there. Yeah. And there was, I think at the time was the head of engineering from Ineos sitting in the back seat. And I was like, well, this is interesting. And so I'm like having a stare off right now with a Scottish stag and I don't know what to do. I'm like, he's like 20 feet away from me and I don't want to get gored with the stag. Yeah. So after about what seemed to be like endless moments of time, which probably was like 1 minute and 29 seconds, we radioed ahead. We said, hey, we're a little bit delayed. There's a stag that was getting a little bit not happy because its ears were flipping back and you could tell it was like not like happy.
Agitated.
Yeah, it was agitated. You could tell it was just not happy. They're like, use a toot horn. You sure? Just use the toot horn. Okay. Boop, boop. And I boop, boop, boop. Like I didn't lay on it because it's just like just a whatever.
Sure.
And then I just kind of ears back and then just kind of started prancing a little bit. Oh, sweet Jesus. He's moving. And then just, I have it on video on my Facebook page. And I like stopped and looked and then he took off. I was like, yes. Like, so
and
I would
in
say,
the release model, will it still be labeled toot?
I'm pretty sure. Well, it was production ready that I drove, so and it said toot.
It's my favorite.
I like that. I like that it has a happy horn. I like that it has happy headlights. Like I like that they're gearing it towards a more utility market, a more useful market instead of just lifestyle folks.
Yeah.
Instead of just angry horns and angry headlights. Like so many cars have angry headlights. Like why? Yeah. It's just why does every car have to be so aggressive? Like, I like that this car is not, it's actually more aggressive, has, locking differentials and all these great, utility features, but it doesn't it's not so in your face. I'm aggressive. Like, I like that aspect of this car.
It has a learning curve. So there's a lot to know about the off-road features and they have built in some safety features so that you can't just push, a lot of the off-road features are up on the ceiling mounted panel. Yeah. And so you can't just hit off-road mode and then go and drive. So you have to hit and hold it for a second and then let it go. And I believe then you hit it a second time to ensure that that's exactly what you wanted. And I think what they wanted to make sure is that you didn't accidentally hit it and then take off again, because it turns off things like, the safety belt reminders, or some of these other features, it disables certain things.
Sure.
Or deep water wading mode too. And there's hill descent and then there's, certain other features up there too. And then the lockers too, if you get the optional front and rear lockers, those are up there as well. Right. So it builds in those types of things so that you have those precautionary measures. So you're not like, okay, let's just push this. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't want to do that. And then something happens, or you're driving on the street and something happens. So, people that want to use those features and have those and order those features on their Ineos Grenadiers, need to make sure to use them before and get comfortable using them before they, just so that they are aware, oh, this is what you need to do. These are the sequences that you need and how you need to use them before you actually use them.
I see.
It took a little bit for us, and it was nice to have either a professional driver in the vehicle or an Ineos employee in the vehicle to help guide us through that. Because I mean, I knew what front, okay, here's a locker symbol, but there is definitely a sequence and how to use some of these things.
Right.
And just even, there's a center diff lock that you can use that's a manual, like, on the actual lever itself to engage it. Whereas the front and rear locker is electronic, but the actual center is manual, right? But still, it's like, okay, you have to just kind of mess with it a little bit and get the cadence of where the gate is so you can, get it engaged correctly, because it's kind of like a Jeep, right? You have to kind of, just, I don't want to say manhandle. You have to just kind of handle it and just handle it and just get it in there.
Well, that's part of the visceral like fun of it, right? Is like you pulling levers and flipping switches and
Yeah, that's just with a manual control, like meshing the gears, these sorts of things. It's not just pushing a button, having a vacuum switch, move some, shift rail or something. But that brings up something, how do the controls feel? Does it feel gimmicky? Does it feel, it's quite a bit different than what we're used to seeing in most modern production vehicles where everything is controlled by a screen, It seems like it's mostly switches and dials in this car.
Yeah.
So, it feels a lot like a Sharper Image world band radio. Like it really feel like
we've talked about that. Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does look like that.
It was like a prize you'd get when you win the Carmen Sandiego game show or something. Like it's lots of switchy flippies and lots of dialy-dialies. And
so I appreciate the fact that there are a lot of knobs, there are a lot of switches and things like that. So the biggest thing for me is I love Chevy, right? But I was just at the 2023 Colorado launch for the new different vehicles and for the trim levels, but the ZR2 is yet to be launched. Neither journalist, that was for a different publication myself, we couldn't figure out how the hell to turn lights on. How the hell do you turn lights on? It was like, it was down in near San Diego and it was just raining buckets. It was dark. It was crap. It was just whatever. We didn't want to ask Chevy, like, how do you turn turn the headlights on?
You shouldn't have to, though.
Right. Right. Exactly. Right.
Should be obvious.
Come to find out.
Like it should either like have
knob,
a feet. But it should be like all the previous generations of Chevy, at least to some extent. It should draw on that design.
It should be organic.
It's something. It's buried in the infotainment system.
Oof, brutal.
So what I'm trying to say with that is, thankfully with Ineos is they have a lot of things with knobs and turn dials and buttons, and they're spaced out enough. They thought enough about it, even though it looks like an airplane cockpit, which I appreciate.
Like a Lancaster bomber.
Right. But they have it so that if you're wearing winching gloves, right, or if you're wearing, if it's cold or whatnot, you can still use them, right? Ceiling mounted.
You're supposed to use your driving gloves when you're driving, your winching gloves when you're winching, and your fueling gloves when you're fueling.
Well,
I know this because my British friend has all three in his car at all times.
If he's that organized, then yes, more power to him. Like
he's just British. That's just how it is. Yeah, that's just how it is. Yeah, they're issued with the car by the AA.
But yes, I mean, so they definitely are a lot more tactile with that.
Right.
They were proud in the fact that they said, I think it was no more than 3 or 4 menus deep is where everything is. So the infotainment, and I have, if you look at Crankshaft Culture on Instagram or on Facebook or whatnot, I have several reels that I posted. So if you look at any of the Ineos reels, and I have an extensive highlights where I saved a lot of my stories at, you'll be able to see, I actually went through and I messed with a lot of those things. And I asked the engineers and I went through and said, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you mess with this? How do you, all those little isms that a lot of other people might not think of. I did. So I literally, so you can see how those things work, or just a quick drive by or fly by of it. So because I wanted to know, I'm like, hit record, right? I just go through it.
Yeah, definitely there's some wonderful photos on your Instagram. And then, the 2 articles that are out right now, both fantastic. One that offers a look at the little tiny half door on the back of the Grenadier, which I didn't realize opened independently without having to open the other one, which is kind of interesting. So you can put little skinny things in, I guess.
Yeah. So it's got a 30-70, I think it is, or a 60-40 type split door. I like that design to some degree. I have some comments about that design that I think needs to be refined, though. So basically is a split door, right? So kind of like where you have
Sure.
like the folding seats, right? You've got like a
Yeah.
40-60 type of thing. It's
Yeah.
the same type of thing, but they're swing doors, right? So it's not like
Right.
a lift gate type of thing. It's like a swing door type of thing.
Mhm.
Some people call them ambulance doors. So they
Oh, yeah,
open, they have
right.
vertical hinges. parallel to
Exactly,
one another.
right. So
Yeah,
vertical hinges, ambulance doors, swing doors.
Yep.
So all of the testers that I've ever seen have had the ladder on them. I think it is an optional roof access ladder,
Mhm.
but all of the ones that I've seen have had a ladder and then the spare tire carrier.
Mhm.
So there is like a push, like an actual on the roof ladder side. So the skinny door, as we call it,
Mhm.
there is a
Mhm.
push ladder or push door handle that you open, right? So that you can get into the small side door.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then there is the actual other door. There is no way to be able to pull that open easily. So you can either pull it open by like the door spare tire or something like that or whatever. But there isn't a way to close that big door at all. There isn't an interior grab handle. There isn't anything else. So you know how there's that little metal U channel thing that's built into the door to like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
actual
to catch
closer?
the other door. Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't want to touch my hand on paint, right? Because if you're off-roading, obviously you're going to etch the
Yeah.
paint because
Yeah.
if you have your fingerprints, your little
Yeah.
freaking prints there.
Yeah.
This time. We drive our cars off-road, right? But I don't
Right.
want to I don't want to etch my fingerprints in paint or
Sure.
whatnot. Or you have to close, so you have to either close it by the paint or you have to close it by the spare tire. Well,
Yeah.
because there's
Yeah.
no other way to be able to close it. So
Right.
you can't close the big rear door with
Mhm.
anything else. It's nothing there.
What would be a good example of another vehicle that has a similar configuration, not necessarily the split rear door, but it has the latch or handle that you use to close it that you would prefer?
Our Pajeros have a single pull, like a single, vertical hinge door that you pull open, but it
Right.
has just a handle, right? That you just literally
Okay.
pull it shut from the interior. But then, it just has it. So it has like, it says Pajero above the license plate. And then you just,
Yeah.
open it this way and then you pull it open that way. So
Like
it's
a
different way of opening
classic
it.
Discovery would have had it. Discovery 1 or 2 had that same.
Right. They've got
kinda
a
reach under the
beautiful,
license
they,
plate
they like
thing.
literally have a beautiful, blank area of plastic that you literally just, literally, I'm just
You
saying,
just
it's like
stick it in.
drill right in, drill 2 mounts, and then just put your little.
Sounds like an aftermarket accessory waiting to happen. That's what.
Yeah.
There you
Well,
go.
I mean,
There you go.
there's a couple of other little isms. And again, I'm just nitpicking, but for me, just a couple things. But again, realize it's a very first automotive manufacturer, very
Yeah.
first ever vehicle. So I'm just being harsh again because my design career, I noticed
Mhm.
little tiny things
Mhm.
that a lot of people might not notice. And for me, a lot of it is usability, materials, and the way things function and usability are huge for me. Couple of the other things, these seat belts are not adjustable.
Oh no.
I'm
Height-wise?
short, and
Yep.
so they're up here. So really up here. So by
Mhm.
the time I was done, thankfully I had my puffy jacket on. But I mean, otherwise
Mhm.
it's the same with all the other vehicles. If there is another vehicle that I'm off roading in, it's just constant. Like right here, there's racks
Yeah.
right there because
Yeah.
This is
kinda
clearly a Land Rover based vehicle.
Yeah.
could be.
There's no ergonomic adjustment in my
You
Land Rover.
can't get comfortable inside of it. Yeah, that's
Ah.
good. That's a
Well, I mean,
hallmark of a good Land
So
Rover.
again, a little fix, but you could end up
Yeah.
getting like a little seat belt, one of those little cushion things with the Velcro
Yeah.
that you could just put
Yeah.
on there, and then just
Sure.
you've got your little cushion
Yeah.
thing. But I mean, so some of those little types of things, again, just very minor things. One of the two bigger things actually that I noticed might be a little bit more difficult to solve. One of them would be easier as a technological upgrade. When you sit in the vehicle, it would probably be on either side. So left-hand drive or
Mhm.
right-hand drive. Mind you, we were driving right-hand drives. I'm again shorter, so I don't know how it would be with somebody that has a longer torso than me,
Mhm.
or taller torso. If you have the ladder, the access ladder on one side with the
Yeah.
window, then you have the other window, right? Because it's split doors. You have the pillars in the back and the corners. Then you have the spare tire. There's not much room to be able to see out that rear. So I drove the pavement a lot in the dark going back,
Mm.
and that rear was almost useless.
Almost useless.
Yeah.
And they don't have a top-mounted camera like some
No.
of the newer SUVs
That's
do.
exactly what I told him. I said, you know
Yeah.
what? I said,
Yeah.
what would be a really good option is to be able to have an upgrade option. Mind you,
Right.
they want to stay mechanical wherever they can and
Right.
technological only when necessary. But to
Right.
have for those that want it,
Yeah.
Why can't they do like a camera that is free and clear, that's up at the
Yes.
top mount,
The
so
top of
they
the roof.
can go beyond the ladder, beyond the spare
Mhm.
tire, and have a
Mhm.
free clear, and just
Yeah.
do one of those like rear view digital
Right.
rear view
Yeah.
cameras.
Yeah, the new Defender has that because Land Rover has accepted the fact that they've put all these plastic things all over the outside of it and dumb shit that you don't
Can't see
need.
out.
Yeah, you
Hmm.
can't. They've made it impossible to see out of the car at all,
Yeah.
and so
Mhm.
they parked a camera up on the roof because of it is optional though, so you can still choose to not see out of the back of the car.
Rearward visibility in newer cars is complete afterthought. Like you can't see out of most new cars at all.
As my mother-in-law is famous for saying, "What is behind us does not matter." So it's behind us now. It's in the past. Who cares?
For me, I'm sitting here. I that video, and I actually, you know what? I did post it as one of the last, maybe the second to last reel. It's pretty comical. If you guys haven't seen it yet, go to Crankshaft Culture and go look on Instagram. It's probably the last couple posts, reels that I did. I was testing out the hill descent control.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, we have anything, literally everything that we've ever owned that are 4x4s. Wait, did anything have anti-lock brakes? I don't even think that anything had anti-lock
Right.
brakes, much
Yeah.
less anything else, right? So no hill descent control, no
Yeah.
nothing, none of that fancy stuff. None of us like modes. What modes? I mean, none of that.
Low range and first gear is your hill descent
Low range,
control,
first gear, like all of them are stick shifts too, right? So
Yeah.
everything's manual transmission. So literally everything is analog driving. You can't get more analog than what Andy and I drive.
Mhm.
I did hill descent control and I
Mhm.
tested it in the Ineos first
Mhm.
down this really gnarly, crazy, they called it the ski hill. And we finished, and it was actually a pretty like gnarly, very loose, very off camber. It was like wetter than crazy outside. And a lot of shale rock and boulders and clay. And I mean, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I did it a second time, full, like, well, manual, but like,
Yeah.
Sure.
manual, but no stick shift, right? Because there's no stick shift. I mean, when I told them that's the other strike, I'm like,
Oh, wouldn't it be
there's no
great?
stick shift. Come on, guys, give me a manual, but there's no manual. But anyway, still,
That's
BMW,
kind
BMW engine, but anyways, and ZF transmission, but I digress. So anyways, then I did the second one and is as manual of a mode as you can. Well, God, what a difference. But considering the fact that
It's huge.
I literally have a Pajero that is stick shifts and Hail Marys, normally it was eye-opening, the difference. It was really quite interesting. It was stunning. But those are pretty entertaining if you want to see those.
So bottom line, are you impressed with this vehicle?
I am. I think that they've got some quirks that they need to work out, but I think all in all, from a first-time manufacturer, from a first-time vehicle, I really think that this is something. I think that the Ineos Grenadier is going to make some waves. I think that North America is going to take a look. I think that there are going to be some early adopters for sure.
Right.
I think that the wave is going to increase, and I think that there's going to be some go-getters that as people are going to start seeing it and start, talking about the vehicle and start realizing its capability, that they're going to be like, oh, okay, we need to really consider this. And they're going to increase. And I think North America is going to be a lot more popular than, what they're even expecting. And by reservation rights, they've really been pleased with North America.
There have been so many people crying for this vehicle from Land Rover for so long.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I mean, what's interesting is the UK, Europe, and Australia are the top markets, and then North America. And
North America is the crown jewel.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is they basically said North America is kind of behind those other three, right? Those other three markets, but they were basically saying or hinting at that North America is going to be like, I don't want to say the upcomer and just to kind of take those off or pick them off, but I really think that they're gonna be watching. They'll be watching this market very closely, and I think that they're going to be seeing some mega waves here.
Seeing as you've done the Rebel 3 times and everything from an ID4 Volkswagen to a Jeep Rubicon, 4xe Jeep Rubicon, to say the least,
which were all recalled, by the way.
They've all been recalled. Would you rebel in a Grenadier? I think that's the ultimate question. Would you take one on the Rebel?
Why not?
Yeah.
Let me have it. I've already off-roaded in Scotland.
If Sir James Redcliffe is listening, there you go. They're the official factory team, ready to go. Mercedes is ready to
Make
jump
it
in
work.
there.
I've got a good amount of seat time behind it already. Let's make it happen.
There you go. You're ready to go. Well, before we invite your husband in to probably do what will be a Patreon special on the Pajero. Ike, if you've ever listened to the show, has put together what is known to the industry as the world's most difficult lightning round questions. They're deeply personal. They are inappropriate for almost any audience. Are banned in 5 states. But at this point, I will hand it over to Ike for the world famous lightning round questions.
All right. So if you haven't listened to the show, this is short questions with quick, short answers. And it's going to test your knowledge of, maybe not your knowledge, but your preference. How about that?
Yeah.
Of 4-wheel drive vehicles. Are you ready for this?
All right. As ready as I'll ever be. Let's make it happen.
All right. We'll see how you do. All right. You ready?
You're making me nervous.
Gas or diesel?
Oh, diesel. Well, and gas. Well, it depends. What am I doing? What am I doing?
Pick
What vehicle?
One answer.
Diesel.
Gas or diesel? Diesel. I love it. That's the correct answer, by the way. Coil or leaf springs?
Oh, coil. Oh,
These are hard.
hard one.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's a hard one.
Coil, that is both right and wrong.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
All right, 3. Magic mushroom or Cella green?
Oh, God. Magic mushroom.
Good choice. Yeah,
Soft top or hard top?
Oh, hard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Bold choice.
There's reasons behind that.
Hopefully there's reason behind all of these. 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive?
We own both.
Both. No.
4. If I
unacceptable.
have to pick 4, but both.
Okay. You have to pick.
4.
4-wheel drive.
All right. And then how do you get used motor oil out of your underpants?
Throw them away. No.
Okay.
Recycle.
Yeah. No conclusive questions answered there.
Oh, man. This was tough. This was tough for you, isn't it? This was a hard one.
That's a really...
Just despite that, you got all 6 correct. So
You got all 6 correct. That is a perfect score.
I don't know
Perfect
what if we
score.
throw them away.
Well
I could just say we could turn them into rags, but nobody wants to use underwear as like a rag. That's just
Not anymore. It was very popular in the 80s, though.
We're going to send you a gift basket for winning the lightning round.
All right, Mercedes. Well, thank you for your insight on all things Grenadier. We appreciate it, and we hope you'll come back once there's, they're out in the market, and certainly anytime you come across an interesting vehicle, we're happy to chat about it. And of course, we could do probably 10 more editions on all of the things you've tested and driven and all that. So, please come back sometime and we'll chat more. And for those Patreon subscribers, we're going to invite your husband Andy in a moment and do a little special feature there.
Mercedes, if our listeners want to find your articles and find your Instagram, find your social media, where would they do that?
The easiest way is to follow us on Crankshaft Culture. That is Crankshaft Culture. That's on all different kinds of social media. And then also crankshaftculture.com, or you can find me via my name, which is a lot longer. It's Mercedes Lilienthal, Lilienthal, or that is a writer with grit on Twitter.
So again, thank you very much for joining us, and all the best of luck in the future, and can't wait to read more about the Grenadier and finally see them out in the streets here.
Thanks for your time and expertise.
Thanks so much for having me on. Multiple articles coming. Lots of stuff coming. So stay tuned and have me on at any time. Love it. Thank you so much.
All right.
Right on.
All right. Well, we ran out of time to have Andy join us, but there may be a secret Patreon special, Andy and Mercedes talking specifically about their Pajeros. Because,
Mitsubishi nerds.
Oh, man. No one nerdier than a Mitsubishi nerd. That's for sure. I'll tell you what. In fact, Andy was wearing a Mitsubishi hat. Non-ironically, that's just what he was wearing today, apparently. So that's commitment.
Pretty sure he has the Mitsubishi underwear on, too.
Absolutely. Mitsubishi tattoo, the small of his back.
Mitsubishi tramp stamp.
Yeah, maybe.
Definitely.
Just wonderful. Just the two of them. Absolutely fantastic. What a fantastic conversation with Mercedes. So just an absolute wealth of information about the Grenadier. I learned a ton about it. I'm interested. I really think it's an interesting car that fits into a segment of the market, sort of to Mercedes' point, that there's not a lot there right now. I think it's interesting. I hope it causes other manufacturers.
Yeah, we're gonna see. Is it gonna be a replacement for the classic Defender, or is it gonna be a new Iveco Massif?
That's a great question.
Yeah, we don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Yeah, is it the car that no one asked for, or is it going to be super?
I think there's a lot more engineering and development that have gone into this car, and I'm hopeful that it's successful. I think there's room. They've made room for it. Land Rover's moved in a different direction, so we'll hope it goes well for them.
And I believe once you're capable of operating all the switches inside, you're halfway to being checked out on a Learjet. So you don't have much more distance to go. So all right, well, with that, we're coming to the close here, but I would be in trouble from the Ministry of Social Media if I didn't mention someone I actually forgot to mention last week. We of course called out some great.
Is this Freelander related?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, this is the Freelander portion of the show. We forgot to call out a great Freelander account, Phil the Freelander on Instagram. Another fantastic, not Phil Bashel, coincidentally. Another Phil.
Two Freelander Phils.
Hugely into Freelanders, and a great account. Another great sort of non-ironic, sort of ironic Freelander tribute account. Does some great stuff with their car as well. So good friends of the show, and yeah, absolutely. Yet another Freelander out there in the world. Not North America, but another Freelander out there in the world. Just making its way. One day at a time. So it's good stuff.
Are you done?
That's quality Freelander content. That's I think there's 3 people that come to this show for the quality Freelander content that we have. And I don't think either of them are our moms. I don't think either of them particularly care for the Freelander. So
no,
no, that's all right. But, we keep at it. And at any rate, that is the show for this week. Again, thank you to Mercedes. Thank you to Andy. Thank you to, everyone who owns a Freelander for tuning in every week. And hey, if you want to keep the conversation going, why not head over to our Facebook group? There's all kinds of fantastic stuff going on there.
It's getting popular.
There's that crazy, not a 101 forward control fire truck that looks absolutely amazing.
It's a Volvo.
It's so cool.
It's very 101-esque, though.
It is super 101-esque, but I'm sure because it's a Volvo, it actually runs and works properly. But very cool, very, very cool stuff, and of course, lots of stuff that there's But hey, one more thing: if you want to get to this wonderful Mitsubishi Pajero content, you just have to become a patron. Head on over to Patreon. And, dial it up. It is what keeps this show coming to you week after week. That and the fact that Ike and I aren't allowed to leave this room that we're both in.
Court mandated.
Yeah, it is. It's we've got the ankle bracelets to prove it. But hey, head on over to the Patreon and check it out, because there is all kinds of special stuff in there.
So much good stuff.
Not just Mitsubishi content, but there's also some Land Rover content there. Who would have thought?
A little bit.
Just a little bit. And we often try out new things there. There's some tasteful nudes of Ike, I'm sure, in there somewhere.
There's no other kind.
There's no. It's true. It's only one kind of photo. It's amazing. This is incredibly photogenic posterior. But at any rate, it's been a Slice, Ike. Thanks for everything. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Looking forward to it. Take care.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Veris, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Veris. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.